You should totally do a recap video on it. Bella is like the new girl in town, right? Like, oh, she's not really new to the town per se. So her mom and dad, her biological mom and dad, like split. She lived with her mom for a long time. And then her mom got a new boyfriend. She didn't want to get in her mom's way of quote-unquote happiness. So that's why she decided to move to like the middle of nowhere with her dad, who is the town's chief. He's a cop. It started out very Disney high school movie vibes. She got like some group of friends and stuff, and she like, you know, re-meet Jacob, obviously, which they know each other before. And then they were introducing Edward, the vampire guy. It was like, yeah, that guy, he's like mysterious, you know, don't interact with him much, I guess. he's just a mysterious guy. He never talks. And then literally it's just like a scene of them having a very intense, awkward staring contest. It's just like them looking at each other over their shoulders in class, just looking at each other. And this goes on for like a while. Edward disappeared for a while and he came back, and Bella's like kind of pissed off with him, I guess, because they had like a little thing going on, even though they don't talk to each other and only stare at each other. They just have their own little thing. And then Edward started talking to her, like asking her about weather and stuff. And then she's like, "You're asking me about weather?" One day after school, Bella was walking in the parking lot, and then suddenly one of her friends was like driving quite dangerously in the school parking lot and almost hit her. But you know why it didn't hit her? Because Edward, with his extra vampire power that makes him go really fast, whoosh over, pushed the car off of her, causing a dent in the car. Now Bella's like kind of like, what the fuck? Because like before this happened, they were having a little stare off, as they do, and she was like, you were there, you were across the other side of the parking lot. And then Edward tried to gaslight, keep girl closer. It's like, what? No, I wasn't. So after Bella was like, yeah, you were, and he doubled down and he was like, well, you hit your head pretty hard. You kind of hit your head pretty hard, like, you know, from the car crash. And I was just laughing so hard because of that scene. So it's like a little back and forth of like Bella trying to figure out what Edward is. Like, she was like, I need the truth, and Edward was like, no, you don't. And one day she was hanging out with Jacob, right? And then she also invited Edward over, but Edward didn't show up. And Jacob was like, the Cullens don't come here or something, because it's the werewolf's territory, so that's why he can't come, because that will be breaking the treaty. Yes, the werewolf and the vampires have treaties. Bella got kind of like, huh, what do you mean kind of moment, right? And then Jacob was like, it's just really a story, but you know, how do you pronounce it? The Keelites? So he was like, yeah, so like our ancestors derived from like wolves. And then one day there's like the Cullens ancestor, that's like our sworn enemy, came to hunt, blah blah blah. And then she was like, interesting. And then she went home and tried to do more research on it. She went to the bookstore to get a book on the legends of the wolves and the Keelites and the Cullens, I guess. Like, she was trying to find out more about what he is. When she came out of getting the book, it was like nighttime, I think, and she got pestered by a guy. And Edward, he can't fucking drive, by the way. He can't fucking drive. He just also drift into the fucking parking lot. And then he saved Bella. And then Bella figured out that he was just stalking her. They didn't use the exact word. He was like, yeah, I'm just like watching over you from afar, because I just feel this protectiveness over you. You're a mystery, Bella. I can't figure you out, or some shit like that. And then she went home, did her research, find out something about the Cold Ones, which is essentially a vampire. And then the next day, she saw Edward at the school parking lot and walked past him, and she led him to the middle of the woods, which is like I mean, arguably, it's like a sign of trust that she has, that he won't hurt her, I guess. But I think it's a very stupid move. You just found out that someone's a fucking vampire, and you led both of you to the middle of the woods, where it's just the two of you. She was like, "I know what you are." and then she started listing his symptoms, like, you're pale, you're never outside, you're like, and then you move really fast, and then Edward like was behind her, like talking into her neck, and then he was like, "Say it, Bella. Say what I am." So she said that, and then he's like, "You know what we eat, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, blood." Mind you, like, they make Bella a very like typical "I'm quirky and not like other girls" type of character. So like, you know, like you can put two and two together. And so now it's the spider monkey part where Edward just have Bella hop on, and they just went. And then they landed on a field where apparently vampires in Twilight lore does not burn in sunlight. They do not. They glitter in sunlight. And I was sitting there, I was like, what? And then Bella's like, "You're beautiful." I know, it's so dumb. That's the whole point of the fucking vampire, is they only come out at night because they burn in the fucking sun. But no, they're kind of like dating now. They're kind of like walking to school kind of hand in hands and shit. And so like a lot of the stuffs are kind of fillers, like have like, "Oh, this is a missing person case, Jacob didn't like this," all those like things you expected to happen. And then Bella also meet Edward's family, and there's this blonde vampire in the family. I think her name is Rose, the only person that was like mean-ish to Bella, because obviously I think she's the most realistic and sensible person in the whole house in this moment. Because like, if you're a vampire and your family, quote-unquote family, brought over a fucking human as their girlfriend, like, wouldn't you react the same way? Because like, it's just pure stupid. I wouldn't let my vampire brother bring home a fucking human. Like, would you? Bella had a paper cut, and everyone kind of like, because like, vampires smell bad, vampire go crazy. I'm gonna be real, if I was over 200 years old, I would personally not bring home a teenager. Well, actually, Edward is 119 years old. I find that part kind of weird too, because Edward is literally 100 years old. Like, I get it, like you can kind of look past it a little and be like, "Oh, I don't see, I don't hear," because he's a vampire and he got turned at the age of 17, so technically he's 17. So basically they're just kind of hanging out, developing relationship of her and Edward. Also, apparently vampires don't sleep, so like she saw his bedroom and she's like, "No bed," and he's like, "Vampires don't sleep." And so after that, like, Edward shows up at her house. He kind of like admitted that he has been watching her sleep for like the past several months. He just sit there and watch, but now he has permission, so he doesn't have to do that anymore. He just cuddles her and just watch her sleep. And then they had vampire baseball in the middle of the storm, because they play it so aggressively that they need to mask the noise with storm, like thundering. And the funny thing is that scene goes on for like an unnecessarily long time. You're just like there watching them fucking throwing balls at and cracking trees. It was so essential to the plot. Yeah, you know, like, I just want you all to just remember, like, it's vampires likes to play baseball. Also, they have been like kind of foreshadowing or talking about like other vampires in the area, because that's where the deaths come from, like people missing, people dying randomly. It's the work of other vampires. Because the Cullen, I forgot to say, the Cullens, they don't drink human bloods. They're kind of like vampire vegans. Now, the new vampires came, right? And their names are Lauren. They're like the kind of like a leader-ish. James, and then Victoria. They'll come. Victoria become pretty important in the plot of the following movies. But essentially, these vampires are not vegan. And they showed up while they were playing baseball in the storm. Hey, can we join for a game? We'd love to join your baseball game. Bella was there, and she was human, and he's like, oh, I see you've brought snacks. And then Edward got really defensive, and that fucked things up because one of the vampires, the James guy, he likes the chase, and Edward's protectiveness over Bella makes it more thrilling for him. So now he is like trying to track down Bella. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Edward's power is reading people's mind. His sister Alice can see the future. So now like the whole like vampire family went into like a frenzy of trying to get them away, because like James a tracker apparently, and he's really good at tracking scents. They decided to get Bella's clothes and stuff to like lead him to the wrong scent. By the way, that didn't really work. Alice saw the future of like a ballet studio and stuff, and she's like, does it mean anything to you? And she's like, yeah, it's my old ballet studio. And then James tricked Bella into sneaking out on her own because he went to her house using her school's file, because apparently it wasn't like secured. He tricked her out by using a tape he found in there of her mom calling her name. So he's like, hey Bella, if you don't want your mommy to get hurt, you better come out alone and trust me, I'll know. So she went alone like a dumbass, like in every movies. And she got bit, but she didn't turn because Edward sucked out the venom. Is Bella legal? No, she is not. She's 17. That happened. James now died. Victoria is very angry because James is her mate, and so Victoria is looking for revenge. But I always find it really funny because Edward saved Bella from turning, right? But the whole plot point after this is Bella begging Edward to turn her. Next movie. Something about their conflict of Edward not wanting to be around Bella because it puts her in danger. The whole family just suddenly moves away without telling Bella anything. You know, they thought that Victoria wouldn't come after her because they left her, like they don't care about her anymore. But that's not how she saw it. She's like, you know, Edward took her mate. It's only fair that Victoria gets to take Edward's mate too. And so this whole time, Bella has been getting major depression. And I mean major depression. Like, she doesn't even have friends anymore. She found out whenever there's like dangerous things, an image of Edward pops up in her head. So she's also hallucinating now. And then she keeps doing all these dangerous shits because she wants to see him pop up in her head. So she brought motorcycles to Jacob for him to fix it, and they just spent a lot of time together, and now Jacob is her rebound. Not for long though, because she dished him so fast whenever Edward came back. But yeah, the whole plot point of this movie is just Bella with Jacob building relationships. So basically, Victoria came for Bella, and now that Edward's gone, she's in the wolf's protection. So Bella made a lot of friends with the wolf pack, which is like all nice. It's very wholesome and stuff, and she learned about what imprinting means. Important plot point, guys. That will come later. The wolf's been hunting vampires and stuff every night for her safety. And also, we learned that Jacob was supposed to be the alpha, not Sam, but he opted out. Like, he's cool like that, you know? He's like, he was offered the alpha position and he's like, nah, I'm cool, gang. Imprinting, please explain what Bella learned. Wolves imprint. And when they imprint, it's not gravity that holds you down.
It's her. Nothing else matters. You would do anything, be anything for her.
Anyways, Edward never came back, even though like Bella was like this close to getting killed by Victoria. He only came back because Bella decided to do a cliff dive, and Alice showed up at her house, Edward's sister, to check on Bella. She's like, I saw you jump off a cliff. Are you crazy? And she's like, oh yeah, it's just like recreational purposes. And then the phone rang and Jacob picked up and Edward was like, where's Charlie? Jacob answered, he's prepping for a funeral. And Edward thought that Bella died. So this is when we learn of the vampire government. Because he went to the government people to try to kill himself. Because, oh, what's the purpose of living anymore if Bella doesn't exist? Bella booked a straight ticket and it was like the day that that city was celebrating that they got rid of vampires. Which is ironic because the big vampire government is literally in their city. And they're like, woohoo! No more vampires! Woohoo! Anyway, she manages to save him in time. And this is when the Vulturine figures out the existence of Bella. They got summoned to the court. They figure out that Bella is resistant to their powers. And also they were trying to kill her because she's human and these people are not vegans. Alice's promised the Vulturine that they will turn Bella into a vampire. Because she gave the vampire people a vision that Bella will become one of them. And so she's like, well, you can't kill her actually because she's technically a future vampire. But yeah, so they promised that, and now Bella and Edward had a talk about marriage. And Bella's like, I don't want to fucking marry at 18. Anyways, after that she tried to get Edward to have sex with her. And then Edward's like, I want to do it properly. Like, he wants to be married to her first. It's just, it only took that because then she then agrees that she will marry him. Do it for the sex, you know? Okay, so, you know Victoria, right? She's been raising an army of newborn vampires because apparently newborn vampires are actually like way stronger than like the old vampires, I guess, because they still have human blood in their veins. And so Victoria has been manipulating this guy, Riley, which is the guy from her town that went missing. Like she just manipulated him, that she loves him and stuff. And this is the part where the vampires and the wolves work together. Because it was also kind of dangerous for the people in the town too. And also like the wolves like Bella now. Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole war of fighting vampires. And so they figure out that when Jacob carries Bella, they can't smell Bella because Jacob's stench is so strong. It just covers up Bella's. So essentially they carried Bella up into this like mountain, like really tall mountain, kind of cold. And Edward would stay there, and also Jacob stayed there, and the rest of the people fought the newborns. They came together because Jasper, who is like Alice's vampire's mate, he knew things about newborn well because that's also the same like his backstory. He was manipulated by someone who he thought loved him, but not really. Like they just used him to like make newborns and train them and stuff. So he knows how to fight newborns, and he trained the werewolves and the vampires to fight together. But yeah, so the whole fight went down pretty well. And there's a scene up in the mountains because Bella got cold, that she was freezing, and obviously Edward can't do jack shit because he's also just cold. He has no body warmth. But like the thing about the wolves is that they're actually really warm. Like their body's always like kind of like hot. So Jacob cuddled Bella to give her body warmth, while Edward, because you know vampires don't sleep, Edward just sit there and just watch them. It was such a weird scene. I find it very interesting that the later movies are set up in a way that is more like haremable, because like now both of them accepted that Bella loves both of them, just more towards Edward. And so after she graduated from school, right, she had the wedding, and then that friend, the fake friend, was like so mean. She was like whispering, she was like, you think she's gonna show the bumps? And I was like, what the fuck? Like that's so mean. Like her character has never been like a good friend, but like it wasn't that bad, you know what I mean? I was like, wow. Some friend, huh? Happy wedding. We also meet the Cullens, the vampire cousins and stuff, which one of them will become a very important plot point. Remember Lauren? So apparently, he came to try to kill Bella because Victoria wanted her revenge, right? And so actually, Irina, which is the cousin, is actually Lauren's like boyfriend girlfriend with Lauren. So now she's like having like werewolf PTSD because the werewolves killed Lauren. And she doesn't believe that it's because Lauren was trying to kill Bella, because my sweet Lauren would never do that. Now, she's having a romantic dance with Jacob, right? Jacob was like, yeah, I just want to like enjoy the last night of you as human. And then she's like, this is not my last night. And then he's like, what do you mean? Like, aren't you getting turned? Like, tonight? Because you're getting married, like that was the plan. And she's like, well, we have like a honeymoon. And then he's like, what's the point? It's not like you guys can like have an actual honeymoon. Like, we'll be just pretend. And then Bella's like, our honeymoon will be as real as others. And I didn't realize until this point that I think that they meant like sex when they were talking about quote unquote honeymoon. I was a little confused at first. I was like, what do you mean? Why can't they have honeymoons? And then Jacob got really angry that she's gonna have a honeymoon. And I was like, what? Why would he be angry? And then I realized, I was like, oh. So after that wedding, they just drove off into the distance and began their honeymoon. Yippee! They went to many places and eventually ended up at this little island. It's a gift from Carlisle, which is the head vampire of their family. They had sex. It's supposed to be very aggressive because by the morning, bed was in shambles. Anyways, I have some things to say about vampire sex. First of all, don't you need blood circulation for that part to get hard? Wait, I never thought of that. It's literally the first thing I thought of when I was watching. I was like, wait a second, how is he hard? Anyways, I'm willing to look past that because, like, you know, fantasy vampire sex. Second point is it's probably cold, because that's the whole point with it too, that their skin is very cold. Maybe it vibrates. I like you guys' theories. It's my headcanon now. But yeah, so Bella woke up, like, and she was like this, like, kind of like, this is the best day of my life kind of mood. And then she couldn't find Edward, so like she went out and find him. And then Edward was like, I'm sorry, I hurt you. And Bella was like, what? What do you mean? I'm fine. Like, she was literally totally fine. And then he shows her a bruise on her arm, a size of a literally fucking hickey. And I was just staring at it. I'm like, she has less casualty than I've had. It's just one fucking bruise. What do you mean? And so he refuses to touch her for the rest of the honeymoon. She got pregnant, because of course. And he's like, what? I didn't know it was possible. And so they both went home from the honeymoon, and then Bella got, like, skeleton-y. Like, she was dying, because, like, the baby, you know, was just not compatible with her body. Well, that was a quick jump to abortion. I know, they were gonna have vampire abortion, but Bella did not want to have an abortion. Remember the girl, Rosalie? Who was like kind of like a bitch to Bella? They kind of reconciled for her wedding because, like, well, she trauma dumped it on Bella a little bit that, you know, her wish in life is to have a family and grow old together and stuff. And now that she's a vampire, she can't do that. That's why she's kind of jealous of Bella. So Bella called her for help because Edward was trying to get her abortion. And so while she was dying and stuff, they figured out that the baby needs blood. And this whole time, Bella thought the baby was a boy because she had a dream that it was a boy. So they kept referring to the baby as he. Thanks to Jacob being a smartass, apparently. Exactly. They only figure out because of Jacob making snide comments about, yeah, it's probably gonna, like, waiting for some, like, to sink its teeth into someone. You know how, like, the wolves and the vampire made friends with each other the last battle? Not anymore, because now they're trying to kill Bella's baby because they thought it's, like, something that's called the immortal child, which is essentially a vampire child. They just called it an immortal child just cause. It's literally literally a child that has been turned into a vampire. And because it's a child, it's not mature enough to be trained to control its thirsts and stuff. And I guess that's the reason why they have a different name. That's literally it. Yeah, so Bella gave birth and died in childbirth, and then she got turned using Edward's venom and become a vampire. The wolves was trying to kill the baby. The whole like fighting between vampires and wolves. It's like a very dumb conflict. I think it's horribly done. Like, you know, they didn't really did. The conflict in this movie hasn't really been well done, but this is the worst conflict they've ever had. They've been building up the fight between werewolves and stuff, with Jacob breaking off his pack and starting his own. And then like, you know, like all of that, like, oh, werewolf's gonna kill the baby and stuff. Just for it to like be like a couple minutes fight with no one dying, by the way. No one dying. It's just like wrestling. And then Jacob coming out to be like, guys, wolf, I imprinted.
Jacob imprinted.
That you can't kill the person that the wolf imprinted on, wolf.
They can't hurt her. Whoever a wolf imprints on can't be harmed.
Wolf, you can't kill her because it's absolute wolf law.
It's their most absolute law.
And then that's the end of the conflict. So she's a vampire. Can they please have sex now? They did. They infected. We learned a little more lore about the vampires too. So, you know, they learn. Bella got mad at Jacob for imprinting on her child. Jacob heavily mothers the child. And then they got a gift from their friend for Bella's birthday, a little shed out in the woods of their own where they have sex. That's right, vampire sex is back. and then she woke up and she's like, how would we ever stop this? We don't get hungry, we don't get tired, we don't sleep. And then Edward said that Rosalie and Emmett went at it for a decade. They had sex for a decade before other people see them. Renesmee is, by the way, a CGI baby. And by that I meant she never got off of CGI. So basically she's half vampire, half human, and also half CGI. Half vampire, half human, full CGI. You know what? That is more accurate. I'll go with that. She is half vampire, half human, but full CGI. Anyways, baby grows fast. And then she was playing Catch the Snowflake. And then that cousin, Irina, came by to like reconcile because she was kind of like not acting well at the wedding. So she came and to talk, but then she saw the baby and she thought that it was the immortal child. So she did what anyone would have done and go to the vampire government immediately. She didn't want to talk, she didn't want to do anything. She just said, I'm reporting this. What a snitch. Am I right, guys? What a snitch. That's okay, she got punished later because she was a snitch and we don't tolerate snitches. Yeah, so now the Volturi is after them. By the way, the ending scene of the last movie was the Volturi saying that it's never about the human, like as in the Bella, because they're just corrupted and they were after Alice. Like they kind of want like Edward, but they don't want him as much as they do Alice because of her ability to see the future. I mean, anyone would have won that. Especially, you know, someone who wants to remain in power. So, he just jumps at every opportunity to, like, pick a fight with the Cullens, basically. Alice saw the future that the Volturi is coming for them. And so they prepared for another war. Another vampire war. Essentially, they went around asking their vampire friends if they could be witnesses. Because they didn't realize that the Volturi goal was just to pick a fight. So they just asked people around to be like witnesses, because then the Volturi has to listen. Anyways, so they basically built themselves a little army. And Bella figured out that she is the shield, where she can... That's why she resists all the powers of other vampires. It's like I call them the vampire government, but like they're not. They act like one, but like they're not really. They're kind of like people playing king, you know? It's just like the vampire government like is only like kind of like in power because they have a bunch. They collected a lot of people with like really strong gifts. So like the date happens, and so they came face to face. They've proved that the kid isn't immortal. And then the guy was like, well, even if it isn't immortal, how could we live with this? Because like, how do we know that she's safe? You know? Like we don't know. Like, it's the unknown. We're not safe anyways. Might as well get rid of her. Right? Because like, he's trying to start a war. But like, be justified by starting the war. So he's just finding any reason to. And then Alice showed up. And he's happy to see her because she wasn't there before. She went to do something which she never told anyone, so it's like a big reveal. And then she came up and was like, hey, like, I can prove to you that she won't be a problem in the future. So Arrow, which is the head of the vampire government, who has the power to like read people through touches, read people's mind through touches. So he touched her hand and see her future things, right? But instead of like, but the vision that she showed him was just them fighting the war and him dying, like they lost. So he, as a coward, decided to call it off, but not before Alice showed him an example of another half vampire, half human. And apparently, how they work is they grow exceedingly fast for the first 7 years of their life. And they just stay like vampires forever. They live forever, like vampires. But they can eat human food, which I think is a bullshit concept. What do you mean a half vampire, half human is literally like the best of both worlds? They can live forever, but still be human, and also eat human food to sustain themselves. It doesn't make sense. Like, you gotta pick one. So I thought that was pretty bullshit. And also, Arrow, the ending is so stupid because we know that Arrow is trying to like kill them anyways. Like he now knows who's against him and stuff, right? Like you know he's gonna come back. Like he literally said to everyone that we're not fighting, not today, and end it like that. Like he's gonna come back. So they just let him go, and the little army that they gathered together that day, even though they know they're gonna win, just disperse. And now they're kind of like vulnerable, no? Like he can just pick them off one by one. Everyone's like happy, like, ooh, no war this time. But like, they're all gonna die one by one. Because vampires live forever. It doesn't have to be like in a year from now. Like they could just slowly assassinate you like every, like, I don't know, like once every century or something. They can literally do that because they're freaking vampires. Time is not a concept to them. At the end of the war, Edward was like, I'm glad she has you, to Jacob. And then Jacob's like, so, should I start calling you dad from now? and I was like, huh? It's such a weird comment to make, especially at that time, because the kid is still a child. And like, I know they tried to escape the PDF allegation when they did the monologue of like,
Be anything she needs. A friend, a brother, a protector.
that's the word they used. And because clearly they were trying to avoid him being a PDF. But like, that comment was kind of funny. And then they time skipped to when she grew up to become like a teenager-like person. I'm assuming she's matured, but that's like the most matured she could have been, you know? So they made a comment. Oh wait, no, they time skip there? And then it was just her leaning on Jacob lovingly. So they did get together. They did. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now you know the plot of Twilight. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much. Kissy kissy mwah!